You have a date with a real human girl. You are a stud. Except, now what? The hard part is done. Except now you're on to the next hard part. Actually navigating that first date and making it a success. Life lesson here, the hard part never ends. But don't worry, I'm going to give you some simple tips for the first date to help you touch her fanny. Fanny? Fancy. You want to touch her fancy. You see, every girl wants to be a princess, and your job is to give her that feeling while you're with her. Because when you make her feel extra special, then she will associate that with you. That is how she comes to like you. Now suddenly you're the guy she's doodling about in her notebook. Now I can't fix your personality or give you a sense of humor, not in this video anyway, but I can give you some winning lines. We're going to start with Johnny from Cobra Kai. Now Johnny is written as a solid alpha man, stud, very attractive to women or babes as he calls them. He's confident and owns the situation. But it's not just Hollywood fakery. He knows how to succeed on a date. Watch what he does when he first comes over.
Hi, Johnny.
Hey. Wow. You ready to go?
Let there be no mistake. You just watched a master at work. He did two things in one move. You must as well. First, he looked at his date top to bottom. Yes, that cannot be denied. Early on, preferably when you first see her, you should look your date over. Yes, do it right in front of her. Not when she's turned around, not when you're behind her. You want her to see you seeing her. The head-to-toe look is quick but earnest. You aren't eye-banging her. You aren't making lewd sounds or anything. She put effort into her appearance and you were letting her know that it wasn't to waste. The simple line, "You look great," solidifies it. Quick and easy. You don't overdo it. This is literally right at the beginning of the date and you are acknowledging the effort she put into her appearance. And that's it. Move on with the date. You feel confident when you see her in a good mood. She appreciates that compliment. You'll see it right on her face. You are off to a great start. Now let's keep going. As the date progresses, you want to keep the charm going. Now this isn't a personality video, so you're going to have to use the one you got. Remember, the whole purpose of a date is you should both enjoy yourselves, and then you can move on to the next level. That can be different things, but for now we'll just say it's a second date. Obviously, if there's a personality clash, then you two don't make a good couple. Nothing lost. But you don't want to blow your shot with a girl you can actually bond with because you freeze up or just don't guide the date in the right direction. You already know a lot of people wave their hand and say, "Be yourself," like they're Albert freaking Einstein. Yeah, that's bad advice. It's really the quintessential example of advice that sounds good but doesn't really help you in any meaningful way. From now on, avoid advice like that and the people who give it to you. Yes, trying to be something you're not isn't going to work. Plus, even if it did work, you're just setting yourself up to be miserable because you can't sustain any relationship like that. However, just be yourself is also the dumps. Like, what if you're boring or kind of a weirdo? Yeah, in that case, being yourself is probably not the best idea. So instead, you want to just talk about the things that will make her want to have sex with you. What? Yeah, keep the focus on things that will make her want to have sex with you. This is actually far more pedestrian than it sounds. The secret is not in some pickup artist nonsense, it just means keep the date exciting and avoid the big dulls. Dating is a lot about sex, even when you're just starting and you haven't done it yet. So here's a general rule to follow. Try to mostly avoid talking about school or work. I know many of you are younger, but school, yes, even if you go to the same school or are in the same classes, this date is not the time to talk about that. Here it is, check back. Questions like, did you manage to do all your homework last week? Or did you finally pick a research topic for your paper? Yeah, maybe these are things you have in common, but as she's talking about last week's homework or whatever research paper you're assigned to write, is she thinking in her head, this is so hot, I want to sleep with this guy right now? No, of course not. Don't fool yourself. None of that is going to turn her on to you. It's a trap you must avoid. The trap is that you maybe do have a lot to talk about. Here's all this stuff you have in common. It's back and forth, so you think you're having a good date. A long, pleasant evening of lively conversation. How is that bad? Except it is. The conversation was about school, and school is not fun. The same applies for work. Answering a lot of questions about work isn't attractive. Do you think sitting on a date talking about her boss and coworkers and the peculiarities of her job are gonna make her wanna bone you? Like she's talking about how her boss gave her 6 extra files to complete this week, and that's gonna make her wanna rip her clothes off and jump on top of you? No, because talking about work or school does not turn a girl on. It does not make her wanna have sex with you, which, as I said, is very important on a first date. And yes, these topics will come up on the first date. What's your major? Where do you work? It's natural that it comes up, but don't dwell on them. Steer the conversation elsewhere. Keep the focus on things that would excite her. A first date is a special event, so keep it that way. Avoid the mundane day-to-day talk. Not here. Okay, I have another absolute must move that actually goes back and complements the beginning.
Hi, Johnny.
Hey. Wow. You ready to go?
I'm separating it out because it doesn't have to go precisely with that line. As you remember, she's going to put some effort into her appearance. You acknowledged that at the beginning. The secret is at some point later, you can point out something specific. Usually it's something that matches, or there is a little theme or something. Maybe her shoes match her top, or her earrings go with her purse, or she has this overall laid-back style. I don't know what it is. I can't see her. But I can tell you for sure there is something specific about her appearance that you can point out and compliment her on. Oh, I like your shoes. They match your top. What are those earrings? I see they match your necklace. Or maybe she's talking about the best concert she's been to, and you throw in, is that when you started with this whole rocker girl look? The point is you're noticing the details. She feels that little effort was really worth it. You appreciate her and it makes her want to keep putting in that effort. Now, like I said, you can bring this up right at the beginning when you first see her, but there's a reason to hold off. Basically, waiting to point out something specific about her outfit adds to the impact. It's something you didn't notice at first because you were sort of taken in by her whole appearance.
Wow. You look...
unrecognizable. A classic example of female objectification for the male gaze.
amazing.
But as the date went on, this particular detail stuck out to you. That way it feels a little more special. Her effort paid off and you are the type of guy who will notice the little things she does to impress you. That will in turn make her want to do more little things to impress you. Then in her head, she's thinking about ways to impress you, and if she's thinking about how to impress you, then that must mean she likes you. Obviously, you're going to have to keep up with it, but that comes later. The point is you made the right impression, which is exactly what you want from the first date. There's one final line to use, and this one is actually after the date is over. It depends a little bit on how things go, so it's not as essential, but most of the time it will come up. Usually after the date, probably not too long later, she'll text you thanking you and that she had a great time, whatever. Provided, of course, you actually agree and want to keep this going, you need to reply in some way that you also had a great time. In this reply, you say whatever you're going to say. You don't have to be Shakespeare, but try to get something across along the lines of, I had a great time too. But then you want to add this. By the way, spelled BTW, you looked really pretty tonight. It's a nice little capstone that doesn't go over the top and tells her what every girl wants to hear from a guy she just had a good time with, that she looks pretty. Don't overdo it, just leave it there. And yes, while it seems like I mostly gave advice on complimenting her and how she looks, the point is you are spacing these out probably over the course of a few hours, beginning, middle, and end. You aren't overdoing it, but instead sprinkling the words in just right. They will all work together to make her feel special. And provided she actually does like you and you actually like her, this is now on the right track. Congratulations, you just crushed your first date.